Welcome back to my channel. Today's discussion will be about Series 21, also known as the series Things with Wings. So let's get right into it. This series was released in May of 2011. Now, the interesting thing about this series is that it's a big departure from the usual ghouls and goblins, tearaway faces, missing eyeballs. So very different. This series doesn't scream horror to you. It certainly did not to me. And I remember getting back into collecting Living Dead dolls after a several year hiatus. I was really intrigued by this particular series. And it doesn't seem like collectively among fans, not that it wasn't liked, but it was kind of troubling that they decided to go a very cutesy route. It seems very commercial, especially since these weren't released in a major retailer like Toys R Us or Target or anything, or any store like that. So it's kind of curious that they went the cutesy route. And they do go into the cutesy route one more time with the Tea Party series, though I think the cutes and horror is very well balanced in that particular series. Here, it's more fantasy than horror, so it's cute fantasy with a little bit of their attempt at the supernatural with some of the characters. So I'm going to go from the least amount of what I have to say to the most I have to say, or usually it's the MVD. And the MVD, I have a lot of information about that particular one. So the first doll we're going to start with is Sunday. Now, first off of the bat with Sunday, just to let you know, she is very wonky. So she's has this thing with her leg that is like on a tilt, which makes it hard for her to stand soundly without being propped up or on a doll stand. Now, Sunday, her death is the same death date as this evangelist known as Tammy Faye Baker. Later, she became Tammy Messner. And she's an adorable doll. And what I love about Sunday is that she reminds me of one of those nativity plays you do in elementary school or in Sunday school. So she has like this very homemade costume in her design. So she has these cute little angel wings that they're plastic. They fasten by Velcro. She has this halo, which sometimes if you see her loose, she could have this missing or it's broken off, and that's another thing. If she falls and lands on it, it comes off very easily, so be careful with that. She has this very vibrant red hair, really cute. She is bruised in the face. She suffered from a fall. Very sad story. She thought she was an angel, because her mom told her she was an angel, and she jumped to her death. Not purposely, but, she thought she could fly like an angel. And her dress has all this staining throughout. So it's a mixture of blood stain and dirt. She fell through some trees. She has staining on the tights. Okay, in case you get her, that's how she's supposed to look. And like I said, she's a really cute doll. She doesn't go for much. I don't think she's quite as popular as the others behind her. Well, she's a little more popular than Desmodus, the only boy doll. She goes for about $35 to $70. However, when I did a product search for her in terms of how much she sold for, so the last known listing on eBay of this year, she sold for $34, but her coffin was open and damaged. And then in May, 2 sold, one for $115 sealed, and another sold for $60 sealed. So her pricing is a little all over the place. So she should be easy to get. Once again, I don't have the production run. I wish I did. And she has really nice hair, very thick. And I just love this bob. Okay? And that's all I have to say about this cutie, this tragic angel. I'm sorry, Sunday. Okay. Next is Desmodus. Now, I love Desmodus. I think he's adorable. I think he's hilarious. He's literally a dad joke embodied in a doll. So he's a bat boy, and so he's literally a bat, and he's a baseball kid with a bat. So a baseball, baseball bat. So Desmodus, his name is actually the genus species of the vampire bat. So he also has these fangs, very similar to Series 19, very sharp. Makes me wonder if he originally was thought of for Series 19, but they probably decided against it because it would have looked silly. He has these retractable wings, which has been used in dolls like Inferno and Resurrection Revenant, just to name a few. And they stand really well. Unfortunately, on my shelf, I can't have them extended, so that I keep them closed. He's the only one that comes with an accessory. He has his adorable baseball bat in his hand. Now, his clothing is very period accurate. His death date is the same death date as legendary baseball player Babe Ruth. And he's, like I said, his clothes is very period accurate to what the baseball uniforms looked like back in that time period. He has a sulfur symbol on his uniform, and the uniform is all one piece. He has socks that are attached to the uniform, again, all one piece. And he has these cute little sneakers, or shoes that look like sneakers. And he's just a scream. I thought he was adorable. He's one of my fave boy dolls. And he has the same ear mold as Nosferatu. But like I said, he's a really cool doll. Unfortunately, he's not a popular doll in this series. He doesn't go for a lot of money. I paid $25 for him sealed, but that was several years ago. Today he goes for $50 to $60. And that's all I have to say about this adorable bat boy. Next is Pixie. Now, Pixie is an interesting doll. Initially, when I was learning about Series 21 and started collecting them, I was obsessed with getting this doll. She actually was the last doll I was able to acquire for this series because she was hard to get. At the time when I did buy her, she seemed very popular, and I always missed out on auctions, and I held out for a really good price. Now, what's interesting about Pixie is that on the surface, she doesn't look scary, she doesn't look frightening, she doesn't look evil. Yet her chipboard and death certificate says otherwise. So the story with Pixie is that she kidnaps children, she poisons them, and is not aware that she's doing something bad. And I thought with Pixie, especially after I collected the other dolls, my opinion of her has changed. She was no longer my favorite of the series. I really thought they kind of fumbled with her. I felt like she is the de facto cute doll, but to make up for the fact that she's just cute, they made her seem like she was more treacherous and evil than her appearance is in doll form. Now, the interesting thing about Pixie is that her cause of death is that she chose to be a doll, which is very meta. She's a living dead doll. So she chose to be a living dead doll, at least the term living dead doll, which I thought was very curious. Now, another thing about Pixie is that she's called Pixie, but her behavior, according to, if you're into the lore of pixies, fairies, that mythology, fairies are known to steal children, especially babies, from carriages. And pixies are more mischievous, um, and they kind of have a certain style about them, especially in today's in pop culture and film, which the doll Absinthe right there, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, looks more like a pixie than she does. To me, she seems like a girl dressed up as a fairy. Again, another homemade costume, like for a school play. She has like these antennas. It's a headband on her head. Amazing curly hair. It's really nice, and it's manageable. She has this face screening that's just really pretty, and she has the running mascara. Not a fan of the running mascara on the dolls, and she has like this sparkling little tutu. And her wings, unlike Sunday's, they're more of a felt material. And I mean, again, she's not a bad doll, but she doesn't fit living dead dolls, in comparison to Tenebre and Sunday and Desmodus. And I mean, again, she's cute but not scary. So she's definitely a great entryway if you're into the cuter dolls of living dead dolls, and she's definitely the cutest. She's on the level of Mildred from series 10 in terms of very cute, and but yet the chipboard and death certificate overcompensates for the lack of scariness she has in appearance. Oh, she also has these cute socks, and Mary Jane's shoes very similar to Sunday's, but in black, and hers is white. Now, I paid for her $60 sealed, and she goes for about 50 to about $100. So she is popular, but again, she's kind of strange. She's a strange doll in this series, and yeah. I don't know. It's just really hard to talk about her because there's not really much to her. She's just really cute. And her death date, I couldn't find any reference to anything regarding like an event, literature, um, and her clothing does not match her death date. So, so yeah, there's also that, and that's all I have to say about Pixie. Now, the doll I really love after she became part of my collection is Absinthe. Now, what's interesting about her, again, she doesn't scream a scary doll, but her look is just so unique and it's just beautiful. So she um is a fairy, and she also has a weird story. It says that she was murdered by a wizard. So really leaning into the fantasy element. Of all the dolls, she's the more fantastical one. So you don't know why she was murdered by this wizard. Now, she, if you ever heard of the alcoholic drink absinthe, which is what her name is based on, but it's spelled differently. It was a drink that was very popular in Europe, especially during the late 1800s. Many artists indulged in the drink. It got a bad reputation as causing hallucinations, and the term the green fairy came from this drink, so that's why she is green. And her hair is really cute too. I just love this haircut. Um, I think she may have the shortest hair of all the Living Dead dolls in terms of a short haircut, and I just think it works. It's really cute. She reminds me of a more evil Tinkerbell, if you will, their version of Tinkerbell. And she has these spots on her arms, and it goes onto her hands. Her wings are also plastic, also fastened with Velcro. She has this velvet feeling dress of sorts that has a hood. Her hood is a little tricky to get on, so I just leave it off. And she has these thick striped tights, and she has these boots. Now, her death date, the year that she died, was the debut of a painting by an artist named Edgar Degas, which was called Le Absinthe. And here's a picture of that. And it debuted at this exhibition that ran for a month from April into May. So her death date is May 4th, 1876. So I think that's when the exhibition ended. And for a long time, the drink was banned, and you couldn't even drink it here in the United States either until very recently, which I thought was interesting. And like I said, she's a very interesting doll. I love her despite her not being creepy or horror. She's just really special, and she actually is my favorite of this series. And her price reflects that. So she's second place for MVD. I should say my husband paid because he actually liked Absinthe at the time when he bought her. He paid $70 and she was open. And she now goes for $75 to $150. So she definitely picked up in popularity over the years. And she's just really cool doll. And like I said, like Pixie, I think she's a great entryway into Living Dead dolls if you like cutesy. But I think Absinthe is uh, more edgier than Pixie, so she's not entirely cutesy, but definitely fantasy. She definitely leans into the fantasy aspect of the things with wings, and that is Absinthe. So last, but certainly not least, is Tenebre. So yes, Tenebre is the MVD doll. Oh my! We're just gonna leave Desmodus out of the camera for a moment. We'll bring him back at the end. Won't stop falling. So Tenebre is very interesting in that she is the first of well, it already happened, but when they came out with Tenebre, she was a planned concept that she actually has two sisters based on this Italian trilogy, which I thought was really fascinating. And the trilogy was by an Italian filmmaker named Dario Argento, very famous horror filmmaker, and it was called the Three Mothers trilogy. Now, the concept for Tenebre and her sisters is that they, within the Living Dead dolls lore, she is one of three sisters. And so the sisters, their names and backgrounds are based on the movies from this trilogy. So I'm not going to go through all the movies. I'm just going to talk about her specific movie. I'm not going to really go into the plot either, but so she is in a movie called Inferno, and that debuted in 1980, even though her death date is not the exact release date of the movie. And the interesting thing is that Tenebre, according to her chipboard and the plot of the movie, she is actually the youngest of the three sisters, and she's the cruelest of the three. So it's curious that they released the sisters out of order in terms of their ages, but she's the youngest. And her the witch in the movie is called, hold on. Now I'm not Italian, so I'm going to say it as best as I can. It's Mata Tenebrarum, which is where Tenebre comes from, and it means mother of darkness in Italian. And the interesting thing with the trilogy, it took 30 years to complete. The last movie came out in 2007, and her movie, like I said, that she's based or inspired by was the second. It came out in 1980, and the first one came out in 1977. Yeah, 1977, I believe. And so, and like I said, I'm not going to go into the plot, but their mother in the Living Dead dolls lore is a witch, and these are her daughters. So she, according to her chip or a death certificate, she doesn't really seem like she's a witch, but again, it's pretty much just an inspiration from the movie. Now, as you can see, she has wings that are very similar to Rain. And like Rain, they are real feathers, and they detach from the back. Now, she's all black, this girl. And I think, unlike Rain, her wings are an improvement. They don't shed, at least in my experience, they don't shed as much as Rain's. I think they did better with that design. She has this hair, which it's very long in the back. Despite in the front, it looks shorter, but that's because I keep it in the back. She has these intense blue eyes. She looks very emo, honestly. I find her as like an emo angel. My husband thinks she has this like whatever to her. Very much an attitude. Now, she does have the witchy boots, which I thought was interesting, and I believe her sisters also have those boots as well. Her dress, really nice material. She has these little faux buttons. And the dress, actually, no, it's not a dress. It's a shirt and a skirt. Okay? But it blends really well that it looks like a one piece. And she, again, and actually this whole series, they're not scary looking, but this one I believe that she's up to no good. I do believe she's evil. Cruel? I don't know, but definitely up to no good emo. Now, the thing I forgot to mention in the beginning of the series is that these dolls were part of the 13th anniversary year. So they came in those blue coffins. Now, I thought they had the tattoo. I could have sworn they did. Let's see if I could find the tattoo. Nope, they did not have the tattoo. I did mention in my video that they had the tattoo in my anniversary celebrating Sadie and Sadie and Sin 13th anniversary dolls. I was mistaken. I thought they had the tattoo, and I was incorrect. They just have the coffins. I think Series 22 has the tattoos, but now I have to check. So I'll definitely confirm that before I do that video. And like I said, she's really cool. I love the concept. I love that we have more relationships, between the dolls within the Living Dead dolls lore. Fans have always wanted a official mother to go with the girls, but we never got them. The guys themselves, they have made in the past, before Living Dead Dolls was acquired by Mezco, they did make these dolls called Tall Ladies. So I thought it would have been perfect if they made a tall lady, very much in the scale of Porcelain, Posey, and Abigail. That would have been really great as this tall doll, as this looming witch mother above these girls. That would have been really cool. And so she goes for $150 to $200. My husband paid $96 for her, and she was opened. So he got her for a really good deal. And like I said, I'll go into the other sisters and their movies when I talk about their respective series. So I didn't want to belabor the video. And anything else about her? No, that's it. That's really all I have to say about Tenebre. So there you have it. That's my review of Series 21. Out of 5 sulfur symbols, I think 3.5. As much as I love the series, actually it's one of my faves, I just think the fantasy element, or their attempt to make a dark fantasy, I just didn't think it worked. I felt certain dolls were better executed than others, like Tenebre, definitely great doll. Desmodus, again, I love that he's a pun. And Absinthe is truly a special doll, very unique. But, Sunday and Pixie, they don't really fit with them. And, the thing is with Sunday, there's many dolls that had tragic ends, because that's another thing about Living Dead dolls. Not all the dolls are scary or meant to creep you out. Some of them are very sad, very tragic, and that certainly is Sunday. But I just felt like her and Pixie, I don't know. But, I won't knock the guys in Mezco for trying something different, and I do appreciate the not always relying on ghouls and goblins and monsters and everything in between. So I feel like you can appreciate that about Series 21. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed my review. Do your research. Again, they come with the standard death certificate, chipboard. He is the only one with an accessory. He comes with a bat. Definitely make sure you look carefully at Sunday with that halo. And that's it. Please consider subscribing. I would love to have more subscribers. Also, please set the notification for my videos so you could be informed and join in the conversation of more Living Dead Dolls content. And as always, happy hunting.